See what Chris Philp thinks. He's the Shadow Home Secretary. Chris, a very good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning.
Now, I know that we're all supposed to be on Team Britain, and we're all supposed to say, isn't it great that the American president gets on so well with our Prime Minister, and it must bode well for the future. But I was frankly a bit embarrassed watching the sort of craven display by Sir Keir Starmer, sort of crawling and creeping around as if he needed to be taken notice of and as if he needed to get favours from Donald Trump. I know buttering up Donald Trump perhaps is a strategy that some people would use. I just thought it was a bit kind of, you know, demeaning really for Britain.
Yeah, well, Keir Starmer was definitely bending the knee, metaphorically, to Donald Trump last night. Look, I think I've still got some concerns about what came out of that meeting. I mean, firstly, on the Chagos Islands deal, look, I know Donald Trump seemed to indicate he wasn't going to oppose it, but that's from an American perspective. It's not American taxpayers that are going to be paying for it. It's British taxpayers. Right. And for British taxpayers and for the United Kingdom, the Chagos giveaway is a shameful disgrace by Keir Starmer. Could cost us up to £19 billion. That's £1,000 for every working household in this country to give away territory that is ours already. It's never belonged to Mauritius. It's over 2,000 miles away from Mauritius, and there's no legal judgment telling us we need to do it. There's a non-binding resolution by a court that doesn't even have jurisdiction, where one of the most senior judges is a member of, or is appointed by, the Chinese Communist Party. Right. So this is absolute madness that Starmer's getting into here. I tell you what, I'll be voting against that in Parliament, and so will the Conservative Party. Right. And
I also don't agree with some of the paper coverage of it this morning, that Trump has kind of gone along with the deal. I mean, he basically said he needs to look at the details. He seemed to think it was a 140-year lease, not a 99-year lease. So it may well be that he hasn't even seen what it's going to mean for the security of the United States and of Diego Garcia in particular.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, this is a critical military base. Mauritius has close connections to China, which, as we know, is aggressively expanding across the South China Sea and beyond. So this is a critical military base. And you know, as I say, Mauritius has links to China, which are highly questionable, to put it mildly. And as we know, having a sovereign base, which is ours in perpetuity, we have complete control, is much better than simply a leasehold. I mean, firstly, it expires in 99 years. But secondly, if a lease is revoked, or if the Mauritian government in 10 years' time says, oh, we've changed our mind, what's our remedy? Our remedy is to go to the court in Mauritius and, like, beg or plead in front of a Mauritian judge. I don't imagine we'll make much progress. So this is a terrible, terrible deal financially for British taxpayers. Every single person watching and listening today is going to be paying for Starmer's terrible deal, and it's bad for global and national security as well. Absolutely appalling. And look, on the trade deal, I mean, the last Conservative government was negotiating a trade deal with Trump. Look, I like free trade. Look, I hope that goes well. But, you know, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge, a lot of details to negotiate before that actually goes anywhere. So that's very early. And the other point worth making is that even an American trade deal is not even going to begin to scratch the surface of making up for the damage done by Labour's terrible budget last October. There are billions and billions of pounds of swinging tax rises that are going to come into force in just a few weeks' time at the beginning of April on businesses, on working families, on farmers. Pensioners have been hit already. And that is going to do devastating damage to our economy. We can already see growth has gone down, inflation has gone up, unemployment has gone up, all as a result of Labour's disastrous budget. And I'm afraid to say a trade deal with America or anybody else is not going to make up for the devastating effect on jobs and on cost of living that Starmer and Reeves and their budget inflicted last October.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, there's meant to be some kind of a statement supposedly being made by Rachel Reeves towards the end of March, but it's hard to see what she can actually do unless she reverses all of it, which I imagine they won't do because they seem very stubborn and curmudgeonly about changing their minds about fiscal policy. But I mean, what can she offer anyone to have any kind of hope that business is going to get better in this country?
Yeah, well, I think you're right, Mike. The only thing they can do is to reverse the disastrous decisions in the budget, which were hiking up things like, you know, national insurance, for example, that's going to affect everybody, businesses and everything else. What they did to farmers was shocking. What they did to pensioners, taking winter fuel payment away from almost every pensioner, at a time when Keir Starmer was personally loading up on £100,000 worth of freebies from his special friend Lord Ali. I mean, the public are sick of that, I think, and it is damaging to the economy. The only thing that will fix it is reversing all of those terrible things they've done. And clearly what's happened in the last 4 or 5 months since that disastrous budget is businesses have been telling the Labour government they've got it wrong. And things like the announcement on Heathrow is like a desperate attempt to try and stimulate a bit of growth. But building look, I support a third runway in Heathrow, but building a third runway in 15 or 20 years' time is not going to help anyone when the tax rises are coming in like 4 or 5 weeks from now. So the only thing that will really fix this is a U-turn by Reeves. Maybe Starmer's going to have to fire her. I don't know, but they need to cancel those tax rises because they are disastrous for businesses and working people and pensioners and farmers and everybody else.
Totally.
We're all going to pay the price.
Yeah, and let me just ask you one final thing about the asylum numbers that came in yesterday. A total of 108,138 people applied for asylum in the UK in 2024, 18% increase on 2023. And also, despite the fact that Keir Starmer said that they're basically going to be phasing out the use of hotels for illegal migrants coming here, more illegal migrants being housed in hotels than ever, 38,000 of them.
Yeah, that's right. Keir Starmer fought the election promising to end the use of asylum hotels for illegal immigrants. And let's be clear, that's what they are, illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he said he would end the use of these hotels, it's gone up, as you say, by 8,500. The reason for that is that people illegally crossing the English Channel has gone up by 28% since the election. And the reason it's gone up is that the Rwanda deterrent was due to start at the end of July. Those planes taking... So if someone crosses the channel on a small boat, they'd be stuck on a plane and sent straight to Rwanda. It's common sense that would then deter people, because if you're in France, why would you cross the English Channel on a small dinghy if you're going to wind up in Rwanda? Pretty quickly people would stop. And in fact, a similar approach was successful in Australia about 10 years ago. But you know what? Labour cancelled that deterrent. They cancelled the first flight before it even took off. It was due to take off on July the 24th. And because they cancelled that Rwanda deterrent stupidly, after all that work the Conservatives did in government, you know, we had to do all the court cases, we even had to pass a new law early last year to get it all sorted out. It was all ready to go, and they cancelled it. And this is the result. Illegal immigration across the Channel up 28%. 8,500 people more in these hotels, and you know who's paying for that? You, me, and all of your viewers and listeners are paying for it. I think it's getting on for £10 million a day now to accommodate these illegal immigrants. It's completely unacceptable. It's got to stop, and the only way we're going to stop it is a removal deterrent where if somebody crosses, they get kicked out straight away, whether it's to Rwanda or anywhere else. Doesn't really matter where, but that deterrent would almost immediately stop the crossings overnight. It worked in Australia, it would have worked here, but that idiot Starmer cancelled it.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Chris, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, obviously as angry about Starmer as I am.